welcome to the latest edition of Ramblings from the Directors. I'm here, Williams. We also got our co-hosts here today, Caitlin. Give them away, Caitlin. Or don't. And then we got Faye here too. Today we also have two very special guests, two young men that I'm very proud and privileged to know. We got Marquis Bundy coming back for another round. We didn't make him mad the first round. And then we also have DJ Gaucher. DJ, if you want to introduce yourself to the viewing public, the stage is yours.
My name is DJ Gaucher. I am a Lincoln High School 2020 graduate who will be attending Rick University in the fall. I'm a proud young Black man and consider myself a community activist for racial justice.
Heck yes. And that's, I think, where we want to go today. I think we want to talk about, just with everything going on, we want to talk about all things race. I would challenge you, if you're watching this and you get uncomfortable, good. Use that uncomfortability to promote some change or maybe educate yourself on some things. So I'm very excited. I know I'm going to learn a lot today too. All that. So DJ, I'll be remiss if we didn't start here, just because this is kind of a theater podcast. But I know something we've talked about a lot over this last year in particular is a lack of representation of brown and Black people within theater, both at Lincoln and abroad too. What things do you think maybe have caused that lack of representation? I know it's like a broad question.
Let's see. So for me, I guess the fact that this is kind of a hard question to answer. So I know for like a lot of people like who are in theater now, at one upon a time, like, you know, there's Asascia. Like maybe, especially for in high school, like they have like brothers or sisters who've done theater, or, you know, family members who've done theater and things like that. And so speaking from my personal experience coming into high school, like I didn't know anyone in my family who had done theater in high school or done theater in general. So I think that's one big thing for people of color in general. A lot of times we don't get involved in things when we don't see people who look like us involved in those things, or we don't know directly people like in our families who, you know, don't do things like that. So that's a major reason why like you don't see a lot of people of color in theater. And also, you know, just a lack of representation, like seeing ourselves like in productions or seeing productions based around us, or people of colors who are the leads or the story is based around them. It's just not something that you see a lot. So I think that's another reason why we don't see a lot of people of color in theater, I guess.
Yeah. Do you think there's like a distinction between, so I know I've heard the phrase colorblind casting in terms of versus like colorblind casting versus like intentional casting of Black and brown people. So I think of like, oh, I'm going to do this play and I'm not going to like use race as a determining factor of casting, versus like the component of I am intentionally finding literature that is purposely Black and brown people as lead characters. Do you think that that is a shift that could help promote that visibility?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like the second one is a much bigger thing. I feel like we definitely need to seek out more pieces of work that are centered around people of color, the stories about people of color, or your leads and main characters are people of color. I think that's a really big thing. I mean, I really do love the whole, you know, colorblind casting thing. But I feel like if you want to go deeper, that seeking out pieces that are about and for students of color, I think is the next big step, because I feel like the whole color blind casting thing is really, you know, I want to believe mostly there. But I feel like the seeking out pieces for people of color is a big thing, and I feel like that's the step that a lot of people aren't making at this point. So I feel like that's the next big thing that we need to see.
Definitely. Finn, Caitlin, Marquis, what about y'all? What are you kind of percolating on in terms of representation within the community? How do we promote that diversity? Because I mean, looking at our school, it's a diverse piece. I mean, I think we're at I have to look at my numbers, but I think it's like 51% or low 50s for white, and then 24% African American. I mean, they're fairly similar breakdown to Des Moines Public. So, what are y'all's thoughts?
Okay, so this isn't necessarily like just for like Lincoln. It's more of like on a larger scale. What I've been thinking about, I just think that we need to like normalize the like shows that are specifically for like black people or like people of color. You know what I'm saying? Like like The Color Purple, Ain't Too Proud, Shuffle Along, Miss Saigon, all the shows like I mean, even like Hamilton, that's a really popular one, and like 99% people of color in that. I think it like, and those shows are known for their diversity, but I think that it should just be like a thing that like doesn't have to be like special about it. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to say like it shouldn't be a show labeled as, oh, this show is diverse, so like
Right.
special. Like it should just be a show. Like I don't know why it has to be different than other shows. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So like I think that we should just normalize or I guess work on normalizing the inclusion of it all. I mean that's like real world bigger stuff, but that's just what I've been thinking about,
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that another big thing that will help with that is, we need to start supporting our writers, like people who are writing pieces for, students of color and people of color. Like, cause, Hamilton, everyone knows Hamilton. Like, there's only so many times that you want to see schools do Hamilton and color. Like, those are classics, but at some point you want to start to see, new stuff. We don't want to keep having to use the same shows that represent students of color. So
right.
I think another big thing is promoting and supporting our writers and encouraging students of color to write. Like, if you feel that, acting may not be your thing, okay, let's give it a try at writing. Or, if you're already writing poetry, like, okay, now let's add that theater component into it, and you can, start out by writing, one act plays or something like that, and then work your way up. Like, we need more people of color who are writing these pieces, so we have new and fresh shows to do.
I agree, and as someone who does write a lot of shows and a lot of movies, I could write 100 shows for Lincoln, but I can't, as a white guy, I can't write a show that represents what it's like to be a person of color. I don't know what it's like. So I could write all these shows, and I could write characters who are black, but I can't write what it is actually like. I can only write what my interpretation would be. So I definitely think we need to get more people of color into that writing system, and then we can make our own stories. I definitely agree with you, DJ.
Definitely. I mean, that's always, I think, the big piece right there is in terms of how do we create an inclusive space that's welcome and authentic and genuine. I think, and we'll touch on this a little later too, with the idea of like, I know DJ, you've talked a lot about this too, of like white saviorism and performative allyship.
Mm-hmm.
I think the trick is not just, okay, we're inclusive so we can be about the gram and do all those pieces, but
right.
How do we create authentic spaces for people of color to feel welcome and to make those contributions.
Right.
It's tough though. I mean, like, and I say that from my stance of privilege, right? Like, it shouldn't be tough. It shouldn't.
Right.
Kayla, what about you? What are you thinking?
I just DJ, I'm gonna yeah, so I've always been one who's supported the Black community. I always find it hard to try to say something because I don't know what it's like. And I don't want to say I understand because I know I don't understand because I'll never have to understand. But yeah, like with theater especially, I feel like doing Hairspray was going to be a step in the right direction in terms of we were able to gather that community to be a part of the program. DJ. And I feel like that could have hooked more people of color into the program. And like you said, seeing people of your color doing things like that is motivation to do it. And so I feel like doing Hairspray would have been a really good step in the right direction with that. But it didn't happen. So, but yeah.
Thanks, COVID.
Thanks, COVID.
TT Rona.
I mean, and it's interesting too. Like, I'm seeing the responses of like Finn and Caitlin and myself too, and I think like it kind of speaks to that fragility piece of like how do I want to go here, like, because it's never been something that we've had to look at, right? Like, a lot of time, I know when first started doing this type of work, like that was the biggest punch in the mouth, was like, oh this happens, like those pieces. And it was my fragility speaking. Like, it was one of those pieces of, it's time to get over me and realize that it's about the work and it's about it's about other people.
Yeah, I've heard the phrase, especially recently, of white people feeling uncomfortable to speak out. But I look at it as, if you feel uncomfortable, that's too bad, because there's no way you feel as bad for yourself as you should for the people of color who have to deal with that every single day. So you're uncomfortable now talking about it, they have to deal with that for their entire lives. So you need to use the privilege that you have.
I would never
You
do
need to
that.
get past feeling uncomfortable, and you need to help support.
My grandmother.
Definitely.
I agree. Excuse me.
Yeah, good DJ. I mean, that's the thing too. Like,
Oh my lord!
oh no,
Y'all are taking forever. What? If I leave, I am not coming back.
DJ, you might have to bring Asascia in on this piece too, because
That's all I gotta say.
and B, I would love to hear her thoughts.
I would love to hear her thoughts also.
And
What's up?
I said I would love to hear her thoughts also.
Nice.
what'd you say, Mr. Williams?
I was saying, I would, like, if you want to bring Asascia in on this too, I would love to see her and hear her thoughts.
Huh?
What's up, Asascia?
Oh.
You wanna come in on this too? I would love. I was telling DJ, I would love to A, see you, because I haven't in a minute, and B, hear your thoughts just on these things.
Okay.
Is that
Another special guest. Everyone, welcome Asascia to
Asascia.
Rambling with Directors.
I love it. I love it. So we're just talking about like lack of representation within theater right now currently, and like how do we promote that more inclusive space? I know we've had some conversations too, one-on-one.
Well, one thing I would say, do more productions that are big in other communities, like Hairspray. Like a lot of people, Black, even though the attendance. I'm in a meeting now. Like, come on.
Asascia will be back, but in the meantime, if you'd like to ask me another question.
I would love to. So I think it's important, and I love that you added this in your introduction, because your activism within your community and within the community. I don't think we can ignore the elephant that's in the room and not talk about what's happening in society in general. So
Right.
I think just kind of getting some initial thoughts in terms of what's happening in the world right now.
Okay.
I think we'll start there. Then we'll maybe take a little mini break and then dive in more, because I got some things to ask.
Okay. So I think the biggest thing for me is I'm starting to notice who the opportunists are versus the true activists. I think a lot of people were expecting this to last a couple days and for it to die out, or, you know, for it to be, you know, a couple protests and then, you know, we basically shut our mouths and kind of get over it and swallow the pill like we usually do when Black people are murdered and by police, and, you know, just kind of let it drift away and just kind of settle and get over it like we continue to do. But I love the fact that, you know, we're taking this time and we're uniting not just across the country but across the world. And I think it's important for people to understand that this isn't, and I don't want them to take this the wrong way, but this isn't about George Floyd. And what I mean by that is this isn't about the name George Floyd, but it's about the life and the lives that were taken because of the skin that George Floyd and so many other people who have lost their lives have. So, you know, I need people to understand that this is a movement for multiple people. This is a movement for a lot of different lives that have been lost, that we either have not heard about or have been swept under the rug, or let's say there have been arrests made, but people are let go, or people got like sentences, or, you know, the cases that have been ruled suicide, when, you know, a young boy was rolled up in a wrestling mat in the high school, which was suicide, when a young woman in 2005 was clearly raped and beat and was poured acid over her genitals, was ruled as suicide. That's what we're fighting for. So that's why I need people to understand it's not just about George Floyd. It's about all the people who still deserve justice. And that's what we're fighting for. Since this protest have started, we've won so many small victories. We have not won the war. We have not won the war, but we've won small victories. The Breonna Taylor case has now been reopened and is under investigation by the FBI. Like, that's a victory. We've been saying her name, and that's what we're saying her name for. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're doing. And so for those people who are, what I love is seeing all the white people in Iowa saying, oh, our police department doesn't, you know, deserve this. Folks, look at the statistics. Our state is one of the states that locks up Black men at one of the highest rates. The state of Iowa. The state of Iowa's jails are made up of overwhelmingly a lot of Black people, and especially Black men. That's what we're fighting for. So it doesn't take one of us to be killed by the police for us to, to react. Like, why do we have to be reactive, right? Like, why can't we take action before one of us has to die at the hands of a police officer? Because in my opinion, it's any day now, right? Because our system that we're living under is already showing us that they don't value Black lives, right? That's what we see. That's what they're showing us, right? And so it doesn't take for one of us to be killed by a police officer to get that message. So that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting for Black lives. And just because one of us hasn't been killed by a police officer does not mean that we have a reason to fight. Turn in up there. You don't turn in here. I think that's an exit. Oh, it does say truck entrance, but you're not a truck, your car. Sorry about that. So that's what we're doing. And so that's why I need, especially these white people who don't understand, and it speaks back to that white fragility and our white privilege, because white privilege is thinking that something doesn't matter just because you don't experience it yourself, right? Just because you don't see the problem doesn't mean that there isn't a problem there. And if you don't see the systematic problem, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I don't.
Oh my God.
Do I need to lay you down and hold your eyelids open for you to see what's going on? Like I don't get how people don't understand the reason why we're fighting. So, I dare people who live in the state to do their research. There's a Facebook post that I shared from Miss Kelly. Miss Kelly shared a Facebook post, and I shared her post. And it was just about some information and stats on the state of Iowa and like the incarceration rates for Black people and things like that. So, people need to do their research before they decide to speak out on things that they feel like aren't important. So,
and that's on period.
100%.
Go ahead and speak your 2 cents.
No, I agree.
Oh, she agrees. Okay. Yeah, but as Black men, I love seeing the unity. Like Des Moines, I mean, these protests have really put Des Moines on the map. I mean, we literally have a protest every day. There's not a day that goes by for the past going on 2 weeks now that we haven't had some protest somewhere. Me, myself, and Asascia, and me, myself, and Asascia. Asascia and myself, and another friend of ours that is a Valley High School alum who currently goes to University of Iowa.
Yes.
Are working on a project right now. The week of Juneteenth, which is next week, we'll be having speaking from the core town halls, where we will be inviting youth in to give their perspective and opinions on what they want to see from groups of people. So one of our days is going to be what we want to see from our police, what we want to see from our white allies and peers, what we want to see from our Black community leaders, and what we want to see from our policymakers.
Yes.
And then after all that, then on the last day, on Friday, I believe, or is it Saturday?
No, it's Friday. On
Friday, that's when we're going to have our rally. So we're still getting the details done on that, but I do know that Monday we're planning. I'm waiting to hear back from Miss Kelly because she's contacting admin. But Monday we're planning to be at Lincoln. We'll be outside. So that's one of the projects that we're working on. So as far as what's going on, I think that's pretty much I have left to say. I just pray that this isn't something that we look back on and say, oh yeah, we were doing so good at that time, but what happened? Or that period of time was so effective, but I hope this is the start of something, or should I say the restart of something, because we've been here before, right? Like we've done this before. I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation with you if we haven't done this before, if my ancestors hadn't done this before. And so, my prayer, my hope is that this continues to catch momentum and we keep going, and doesn't start with George Floyd, it doesn't stop with Breonna Taylor, and that we just keep going on. And I mean, as far as we can go back, these people who still need justice, I pray that we get these cases reopened and we get the people responsible put in jail, and these police officers and these people who are accomplices in these crimes arrested in these murders. Not, one of the biggest things that irritated me about George Floyd's death is the way people would advertise it as like, oh, the man that died in police custody. No, the man who was murdered by police. Like, that, I mean, that's the truth. It's not the man. He didn't die in police custody. He was murdered by police officers. So I think that's another thing we need to start doing, is really calling out these BS headlines. Because when it comes to Black people, the BS, I mean, the headlines are never, sugar-coated, straight to the point. But when it comes to police officers and white people who are killing Black people, then we want to sugarcoat it and make it seem, not as bad as it really is. That's another thing that irritates me. But I can go on and on. But that's my spiel. So.
Well, I think you hit on a really good point too with that piece of like, because you said we've been here before. Like, this is not new information. But I think for me, like, a really empowering aspect that I've noticed is like you said, the youth piece. And how prominent the youth have been in this movement. But we're going to investigate that more. We'll be back in just a moment. We're going to take a little break, pay some bills here, ramblings from the director. So we'll be back in just a moment. Are you looking to make your own podcast? Wondering what service you could use to make your podcast super easy and super efficient? Well, let me tell you, try the Anchor app. You haven't heard about Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First off, it's free, which is my favorite F word. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your own podcast from your phone or your computer. It's that easy. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. So it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Radio Public, and even the Anchor app itself. The cool thing is you can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. I mean, you could have one person listening and you'd still be making that green. So if you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you're going to the Anchor app. You can get it on Google Play or in the Apple Store, or you can get it on the internet. Download it now. It's a great tool. And we're back. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Ramblings from the Director. We're here with DJ Gosher, Tracy Anderson, Marquis Bundy. We're talking about where we are today, right? A fight that is not new.
Power off.
But we're seeing hopefully seeing more changes run about. So we just got done talking about like a lot of things, a lot of unpacking. And there's a lot there. I don't want to like reiterate pieces too. I know for me, DJ, something that you said too, the idea of education, like, has been so huge in the last couple of days. And I'm gonna speak on my privilege here for a hot minute. But I think that's been the thing that's been the most like eye-opening for me as a white male. So coming from multiple aspects of privilege, but doing the research and doing the work, like I think of pieces of like Khalif Browder, who I hadn't heard of Khalif Browder as my white privileged self. Like hearing those things, I mean, names like Fred Hampton, you know, are just names that I had no point of reference on. But doing the research, you know, trying to find out more. Like, yeah. I want to get y'all's opinions because this has always been a big hot take on peace. The idea of those that have you know, I'm just gonna say it because I don't care. Like the incorrect assumption of blue lives and all lives matter.
Oh my gosh! I just literally was watching TikToks last night, as one does, and I came across this account that was All Lives Matter. Very like you know, in that field, right? So I was like, okay, let me just read what it's about because you know I'm nosy like that. So then so like they had a whole bunch of like posts on their TikTok, and like people were always in the comments saying like, posts about like how all lives matter and how they're like pro Trump and everything. Like Trump is like their favorite president or whatever, which is like okay, cool. But he was like trying to defend Blue Lives Matter, and there were so many people that were like, blue lives, like that's not a thing. Like that's not, like, you can't be born with blue.
Being a cop.
You know, like
are we talking about Smurfs here? Like
Yeah.
what's going on? They don't choose that. You choose to be a cop.
Yeah, it's a choice that you make, and it's like they don't get us as black people, we can't take off our badge and our uniform at the end of the night and go home safely. You know, like that's not how that works for us. So for them to be like, well, all cops matter and not all cops are bad. Well, you know, not all black people are bad, but you still get killed. You know, for what? You know. So I don't know. I don't want to be too political, but like I just feel like I don't get it. I really don't understand why like Blue Lives Matter is even a thing. It's just like it's a slap in the face to the Black Lives Matter movement because it's just like
make it about themselves.
Yeah, like
Like,
they're trying to like make it like equal for everyone, but it's very obviously not equal for everyone because black people are still getting killed. So that's the whole purpose of this movement, and I feel like they're not seeing that, and I genuinely do not know how to make people see that anymore because they choose to be so like
Oh my God,
stubborn
run them over. It's okay.
and like yeah, closed mind. It's just, I don't know, it's frustrating with a capital F. So.
I know I struggle with this piece of like taking the individual out of the system. So like I feel like as in, like not all cops are bad. Like okay, but like the premise of a good person can function within a bad system and within an oppressive and racist system. Like, so how do you break down that piece of like removing the individual person? And you could even argue, I think, too, like that piece of unless I, and even if I am anti-racist, if I'm functioning within a system that is racist and is oppressive, are you truly free from that title? I don't know if that makes any sense, but I guess I want your thoughts on it. Like, can someone that exists within a racist and oppressive system not be racist?
I think if like someone, not necessarily a cop, but just anyone working in any profession, like understands and acknowledges that they work in a oppressive like system and doesn't do anything about it, like they don't try to make a change, they don't like leave, then they are then feeding the problem. You know, it is no longer, they're no longer like a good person to me in that point because they know that there's an issue and do nothing about it. So I don't think those two things can. I don't think those things can exist because if you were a good person in a like systematically oppressive like profession or like group or like position or whatever, then you wouldn't be there anymore. You'd be doing something different to try to make that not the case. So.
Many cops have let it happen like this for so long that it's like you're signing up to be part of this group, and so blue lives. That's not a thing. Like this is focusing on the oppressed group right now, which are Black lives and Black Lives Matter, and with the whole movement of how it's become so popular and so many like it was like the largest civil rights movement, I think. And I think it's so awesome that, like DJ was saying, the unity of it is bringing so many people together over a situation.
We're trying to sing happy birthday to my sister, and they've got the wrong ingredients because they're trying to make
so I just think like
icing or whatever the heck, and now we went to the store, and now she has to make it all over again.
That's that on that.
Yeah.
Well,
I've really fallen in love with the statement lately that all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. And I really agree with that because I see a lot of people who, and I'll admit, I was one when I was younger and I didn't really understand it just based on the surface because, you know, all lives do matter. You know, it doesn't matter if you're Black, white, Asian, gay, lesbian, everyone matters. But we can't focus on having everyone matter until we make sure that Black Lives Matter and the All Lives Matter movement is a protest to the protest. And that's why you can't be saying it. It's a protest to the protest. It was brought up to go against the Black Lives Matter movement.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I think mainly people need to understand. I didn't understand that for the longest time before I was like really doing research into it. Like 3 years ago, I was like, well, what's the problem with people saying all lives matter? Now I understand what was wrong with it. And it's it's a problem that I think people need to definitely do more research on and understand what people are actually saying when they are saying all lives matter, and what people are saying when people say Black Lives Matter. When someone says Black Lives Matter, they are not saying that white lives don't matter. They are not saying that Asian lives do not matter. They are fighting for what needs to be done so that we can get to having everyone. And I think that's something people really need to understand, especially a lot of white people who don't have the same experiences as Black people or other people of color do.
I mean, people just digging their heels on those pieces too, which, and I'm just gonna say it, like, because it's.
I'll be right back.
This is accurate, but it's white people digging on this hill. I'm like, these are the hills you want to die on. All lives matter. It's frustrating, and I think it speaks to that fragility piece again. I'm so absorbed within my own that I can't expand outside of my own bubble, which is just frustrating because it's, in my opinion, laziness. And I'll admit that I've been lazy too. Like, there's no reason I should have discovered. Like, again, I go back to the Fred Hampton thing. Like, there's no reason I should have not known who Fred Hampton was until last week.
Right.
That's just laziness on my piece.
White people just, they want to be oppressed so bad. Like, it's not something to like aspire. I don't get it why everyone is trying to why like white people are trying to make it about them, you know? Like, well, my life matters too. Like, we're not saying that your life doesn't matter or that our lives matter more than your lives. We just want our lives to matter as much as your lives. Does that I don't get why people don't understand that.
Yeah.
You know?
I saw this video and this Black woman, she had this amazing speech, and I'm going to look it up before the end. I can't remember her name right now, but I will find it before we end this. And at the end of her statement, she said, "You should be happy we are fighting for equality and not revenge."
Yeah.
And that hit me very hard because it's so true. I was watching a documentary the other day about I think his name was Roger Smalls or Robert Smalls. Robert Smalls, that's what it was. And he was a slave who escaped, stole a boat, and then became a congressman. And as I watched that, in the next recommended thing on YouTube was a documentary about a Jim Crow museum, which is all about the oppression of Black people. And that really, you know, I won't say I understand, because obviously I don't understand, but that gave me a better look into it. And it's horrible, the things that have happened. And I feel like it's important for all people to educate themselves further on this. And I have a point, because in my watching of documentaries to try to get a better understanding, I came upon a documentary about the Ku Klux Klan. And all they were saying in that documentary was, we're not a hate group. We don't hate Black people. But if you look at the history of the things they've done, it's impossible to say they are not a hate group. Yeah. And I would really like to get everyone's opinion on that by something that is notoriously a hate group saying that they are not a hate group. I would like to get opinions on that.
I just feel like they're trying to cover up for the mess I don't even know how to. They are a hate group. If you're targeting a specific group of people, you're a hate group. Like, why would you even try to say that you're not? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't.
It makes no sense.
Oh my god, I can't talk. If they said they weren't a hate group, then what did they say that they were? Like, what exactly would they, if that's not?
What they were really saying was, they were like, we're not a hate group. We're really just a group of people who want to keep things the way it should be. It really makes no sense.
I remember a while back I stumbled upon, or maybe I searched it up. It was a Ku Klux Klan page, and basically what they were saying is they don't hate Black people, but basically want to keep white people as white people and Black people, and that's the way it should be, and this and the other. So
that's what they were saying. They're like, we don't hate Black people. We just believe there should be a separation between whites and Blacks. And I'm like, why? That you're kind of going against your own statement here. Yeah. It it's like, what are you saying? And there was this one part where this woman, she gave as a gift, they were doing this like raffle at one of their cross burning meetings, and they were doing this like raffle, and she had a nightstand that was a person, and she painted it black, and it was awful. And she made a little noose around it, and the guy who was doing it was asking her, well, why did you paint it black? And she said, oh, I thought it was funny. And then she made a little noose around its neck, and she's like, I thought that was funny too. And it's like, you can't say that you don't hate a certain group of people, but then when you're doing something to purposely show hate to a group of people and say that it's funny, you can't do that. So I'll try to find it, and I'll send you guys the link to the documentary if you would like to watch.
Here's the thing: when you live in a country where my group of people have mistreated is not even the word. Have just, I don't even think there's a word that exists to fully explain and like capture the treatment that we've experienced. But when you live in a country like that and you grow up in that kind of culture, and especially if your family reinforces that culture, you truly don't, and this is the sad and this is the scary part about it. You truly don't feel that you hate that group of people. Like, those people really don't feel that they hate Black people. They think it's normal. They think it's okay. They think it's acceptable, because when they know what their feeling of hate is, that they know there's something else that they hate, but then they think about how they treat Black people. The fact that it's normal doesn't equate to hate for them. Mm-hmm. Right? So like, the scary part is that these people really don't think that it's hate that they're operating in. They're operating in normancy. They're operating on what they believe is right, and that's the scary part about it. And that's why truly it's kind of, when I really deeply think about my life, I do sometimes start to overthink, and sometimes I really do fear for my life sometimes, because I think about people like that who think it's just okay and normal to think that way. Mm-hmm. Because thoughts, your thoughts turn into actions, right? So if you think, that Black people, like let's take the Ku Klux Klan for example, or the current ones. Like, if you think that Black people and white people should, coexist in one area together, okay, that's a thought. But then when you feel like a Black person has infiltrated your space, that thought then turns into action and what you're going to do to prevent that, right? Mm-hmm. So then that's the issue. Like, people just think thoughts are just thoughts. That's not true. Thoughts are in action. That's why we have to really address stereotypes and stereotype threats and preconceived notions about, and not just Black people, about people of color in general. But we're talking about Black people right now, so Black people. That's why we have to attack and deal with those stereotypes and the way that people preconceive what we are supposed to be, right? So I think that's the big thing, is that things are so normalized for these people, and their privilege. My favorite saying now is the privilege is thick. The privilege is so thick in their life, they don't see anything wrong with it. And that's the issue. Like, they don't see anything wrong with how the current country is operating, and then that's why they don't see, and they truly don't believe system of oppressions are real. That's why sometimes you can't argue with people, because people truly believe what they believe. Like, people truly believe system of oppressions aren't a thing. Like, people truly like, and so that's why when they see on the news that a Black person is killed by a white police officer, they don't think it has anything to do with race, because it's normal for them. They just think it's normal treatment for us. That's the issue, is the normancy behind all of this.
Yeah, and that, I think of like that power dynamic too, of like, I don't want to think about things that relinquish any of my perceived power. I love the words of Brittany Packnett Cunningham, where she speaks about this dynamic of power being a myth and not a finite resource. Like, I think of those pieces of, and I don't want to stereotype and generalize, but I feel like from my interactions that I've seen, a lot of those people that are, well, these are just thoughts, and this racist rhetoric, view that as like, I don't want to lose any power, so I'm not going to give any away. Right. And you think about that piece of like, power is not a pie. Like, we can share this power collectively and empower each other and empower everyone and still still thrive. Like, it's not, if I give some of my power to Marquis, like, all I'm doing is helping, So
Right.
on that piece, like, if you haven't, I strongly recommend anyone watching this, go look at Brittany Pecknick Cunningham. She's doing amazing work. And it's just, yeah. So shameless plug there, my bad.
See, it's a lot of the people who are like that, who like members of the Ku Klux Klan, is they won't listen. They won't even listen to someone like me, who in their eyes, they see white people as superior. I saw in a lot of them, they said, I'm not racist, I just think white people are superior. That is the definition of racism, is thinking that one race is superior than another. But a lot of them, when the person was trying to tell them, the interviewer was trying to tell them about these things, they just wouldn't listen. And that's a big problem, is a lot of them won't listen because, like DJ said, it's normal to them and they think that they are 100% right and they cannot be wrong. And like DJ's right, that's where it's scary, because they won't take the time to educate themselves. And that's where the difficulty comes in, to get people to change. And even though they would, probably be fine with talking to someone like me because I am a white man, it's sad that they would rather talk to me, a white man who does not have the proper education or the proper experiences to give a full picture, but they would rather talk to me about it than they would rather talk to someone like DJ or Marquis. But even when I would try to talk to them about it the best way that I could, they would not listen. And like DJ's right, it's terrifying to think that some people think that way.
I was just going to say, those are probably the same people that say that Black people are racist. And if nothing else, if you are listening to this or watching this, if you take no other thing from this, please take this away. Black people cannot be racist. They cannot. They can be prejudiced, maybe, but they cannot be racist. If that's all you take away from this, please take that away.
And I want to debunk this, because I really need people to understand this. Okay, let's forget the narrative real quick that, let's say that Black people can't be racist. Let's just forget that for a second, and let's go this way. Okay, so for those of y'all who think Black people can be racist, here's the thing: one, you're usually 99% of the time you're referring to a Black person dealing with or reacting to or responding to or interacting with a white person. Here's the first thing: if any Black person, if we as a community wanted to say, you know what, forget white people, we don't want to associate with them, we don't want to deal with them, we don't want to live with them, coexist with them, we just want to be by ourselves, we would be 100% entitled to that feeling, right? So for a Black person, if y'all are trying to say that, just because a Black person may call a person a cracker is racist, okay, that's stupid, okay? That's not true, because the word cracker does not have the same history and context as the N-word. So let's deal with that. We dealt with that, period. Also, let's say a Black person does a Black white people. Do you ever think about why? Like, for those of y'all who just want to label a Black person racist, do you ever think about why? Have you ever thought about their experiences or interactions with Black people? With white people, there's always a reason behind the feeling. And so the fact that, y'all or white people be so quick to label a Black person racist, it's crazy, because I guarantee you none of y'all ever stop to ask that person what they've gone through or what interactions have made them feel that way. The reason why Black people cannot be racist, as been stated, is this fact of being superior. We cannot think that we are superior. We can't. The system that we live under and live in doesn't give us any room to ever feel that we're superior to white people. It's just impossible. I can't. There's literally, even if in my whole heart I wanted to feel that I was superior, I could not. I need y'all to understand this. I literally cannot think that way. There is no way. So that's why I need y'all to understand. Those of y'all who think I can label black people racist, how? How?
Yeah.
Like, you'd be surprised, like, how many people I've gone back and forth with on Facebook. Like, I've got a break this past week because I just need a break. But people have told me to lay in traffic and get ran over by cars. I don't even know what a dunce is. I've been called a dunce, whatever the hell that means. I've been called idiot. I've been called stupid. People laugh at me when I tell them black people can't be racist. And these are all people from Iowa, and quite a few of them probably in Des Moines, sadly. So, that's why I keep trying to reiterate. This is why we're fighting here in Des Moines, is because don't let this peaches and cream, like, Iowa nice vibe fool you. Like, the state of Iowa and Des Moines for black people is a dangerous place to live in. And the thing is that our state as a system understands that the best way to get us is systematically. So that's why you're not going to see a lot of cops coming out and blatantly killing black people here in Des Moines, especially Iowa. But that's why our incarceration rate is the way it is because the system here understands the true way to get black people. That's systematically, and that's why we do what we're doing right now.
A good reference to building off of that. If you haven't, I know I put this in our little ramblings from the director group chat too, but if you haven't, like, go watch 13 Netflix, and that hits those points. Like, changed my I watched it a couple days ago and changed my perspective on a lot of things. Just in general, like, I think I saw data that showed I think I was the fifth highest rate of, like, racial disparities within. I mean, the facts are out there. That's the thing I always struggle with in those Facebook conversations of, like,
right.
Facts don't lie. Like, facts are facts. Articles are articles. Your opinion, like, for those people that come against it and try and combat it, it's like your opinion doesn't trump statistics that show why this fight is important right now and has been for a long time. We're about coming up on about an hour. We'll kind of venture into the wrap up if that's cool with y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, like, and in terms of DJ and Marquis, and I always struggle with that piece of, because I think it's important of listening to our black and brown voices, but not making you have to educate us on making white people educate us on everything, because we have to do our work too. But what kind of what message do you want to send off with? Like, where do we go? How do we, which I know is a lot, but where do we go? How do we get to a more equitable space?
I would say just continue to unite. I tell people this all the time. We can't win this fight or really even effectively fight without white people.
Yeah.
So we need our white allies. This work is impossible without them. We need those people to infiltrate the system. And before we can tear down the system, we have to know how to navigate the system. And the only people that can truly educate us and show us how are those who benefit and were raised in the system, right? That's another big thing. Like, before we had, black judges and black senators and black lawyers and all of that jazz. Like, we had to have white ones first to show us how to get there, right? And so now that we're starting to see this, I mean, it's not a big shift, but it's a shift now that we're seeing black people getting into those high places. Like, we have to remember how we started to get that movement. And so again, we need our white people. So love y'all. I know I may make y'all mad sometimes and uncomfortable, but it's okay. You'll get over it. Go home, drink some water, pop a couple What was I about to say? Almost sounded like I was about to say a pill, but I was not going to say pop any pills. Don't pop any pills. Nutrition gummies. That's what I was going to say. Drink some water and pop some gummies and come back and let's do it again the next day.
I just wanna say to just keep educating yourself. You know, you can never know too much, especially about this. It is, you know, they say knowledge is power, and that's true. You know, it's gonna take everyone knowing what they're talking about for us to like win this fight. So just do your research. Just stay in the know, and if you have the privilege, use your knowledge and your privilege to help us out. You know, we need it.
I love it. I think it's so important. Like, I'm gonna say for old people, like, learn to listen to these young people because they're a hell of a lot smarter than we want to give them credit for.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm just saying, like, let's listen, especially to those white people listening out there. Listen to all Black and brown voices, because it's not about us. We're there to help, not to take over the movement. But listen to these young people too, man. Y'all got this, and I'm so proud of the work you all do. Yeah, you've been listening to Ramblings from the Director. Anyone got anything they want to say at the end?
Black.
Sign petitions.
Sign petitions. I would like to say, to round this out, since this is a theater podcast, support Black creators, support Black artists. Like Williams was talking about 13th. That was directed by Ava DuVernay. She's one of my favorite filmmakers. She had a movie called Selma. I loved it. There was the mini-series When They See Us on Netflix, which is amazing. She makes great stuff. Spike Lee. Go watch Spike Lee movies. Black Klansman. I loved it. Black Klansman was amazing. Go watch Jordan Peele with Get Out and Us. These are support Black filmmakers, Black theater people, Black creators, Black artists. We need to support all of them, especially right now.
If you're in
Watch Medea.
Listen to Ragtime. Ragtime is a big one. Listen to The Color Purple. Hairspray, of course. Hairspray is a good one.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, just surround yourself, immerse yourself.
Child, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, for the white people out there, like, you don't have an excuse to be lazy anymore.
Right, because the privilege out here is too damn thick. Okay, I need y'all to slice that shit. Okay, it's getting ridiculous. Oops, I'm mad.
You're all good. You're all good. We're loose here. But like, that's the thing. Like, the resources are so readily available. I think that's how you say that. I don't know.
Readily available. There is no B in that word.
Readily.
No B in that word.
No, sir. Don't worry, guys. He's definitely not an English teacher.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Or a communications teacher. I feel like that's just a struggle every episode is, what am I going to mispronounce this week?
It's okay, Williams. You had a validatable excuse for saying the wrong word.
So take, like, but they're so readily available that your inaction is a choice now. It's not just laziness. Like, your inability to process and is a choice. So sit with
white
that.
Silence is white violence.
Say it again for the people in the back, DJ.
White silence is white violence.
So we're going to sign off here on this end.
And instead, and for this episode, instead of telling you to go wash your hands, Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Look at the camera and say Black Lives
Matter. My life matters.
We're going to link a bunch of, like, resources for you in the comments too. down below. So get active, because like these young people are saying, Black Lives Matter.
Period.
There.
Peace out,
We
y'all.